We are behind on production. And we need to get cracking on making this campfire wood. What's good for the glutes is good for a gander. Last year, a neighbor of mine reached out to me because he had a pile of white pine logs that a friend of his was going to mill, but then ended up not milling them, and the sawmill broke down or something. I don't know. Something went on where they wanted to get rid of these logs, and he was wondering if I wanted them. And so I said, sure. I took the logs, even though, yes, they were pine. Pine is still fine for campfire wood, and also I don't mind burning pine in the boiler in the early and late burning season. So like starting off in the fall, maybe end of September, October-ish, pine for me, well actually all year long I'll burn pine in the boiler, I don't care. But this stuff with these bigger logs and the 5-way wedge, I'm able to get those smaller splits off the outside of the wedge and then those bigger splits from the inside of the wedge. And some of those bigger, like fatter slab pieces, they actually work great for an outdoor wood boiler. Yes, pine in a wood boiler. That is my plan for some of these pieces. And the rest of them will go to get mixed in with the campfire wood and the bundles. So it's gonna work out great. I mean, you can't turn down free wood. That's the best kind. And the other thing is, you never have enough. So I had these pine logs. I still have more of them over in a pile that I will be getting to eventually, but I had a bunch from that in the last video. I had a little bit of time to come out in the wood yard and buck a few of them up. So today, yes, she is back. She's out here. Amanda's out here to help me because, hey, in the last video, I bucked these rounds up. So now I need some help moving them over to the splitter. Well, actually, I don't need help moving them over to the splitter, but she enjoys coming out here and moving around bigger rounds. It's kind of a bit of a challenge for her, and she likes to work out. And hey, what's good for the glutes is good for a gander. So there were 24 rounds that I had over here bucked up and ready to split. And I think if there would have been 25, it would have been too many because the trailer is full. Those bigger rounds made a lot of pieces, even so much that they were spilling out. They're spilling out on the sides over here. So this is what I mean when I mentioned earlier about like this piece of wood right here. This is a great piece of boiler wood. And believe it or not, the inside of these logs are still like really damp, just wet. In fact, there was a few times on the wedge I could just see the moisture from splitting these things. Some of them, not so much. Some of them were a little bit drier, like you can probably tell just by the color of this one. That one's not too bad, but yeah, these things are wet and heavy, and they've been sitting for quite a while, at least 2 to 3 years in log form. And so, like here's another one. It's just damp. So there again, it gets back to my theory on round wood rots. These logs sitting in log form, even without any bark on, completely barkless, they still are not seasoning. They were not drying on the inside. But they are drying now. And this big load, like I mentioned, some of it will go for campfire wood. You got nice little pieces like this. You got a nice little bundle piece like that. Here's another bundle piece, but then you have some nice fat slabs for the boiler. So the trailer is loaded, the rounds are all split. I'll get to those other logs sometime this summer, we'll see. But that's gonna do it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, have fun, be cool.
I've been a real bad boy on the town all night. Starting